So it's becoming very evident that the world is just ready for change. All around the world, in countries everywhere, we are seeing mass protests. The US dollar has been abused so much by large controlling monetary organizations to the point of no return. After so many years of lies and secrecies and deceit, totally supported by bribing our government officials and leaders and the spying agencies that they own, the cat cannot be held in the bag any longer, in my opinion. The idea behind the IMF and the World Bank was to lift third world countries out of poverty by helping them start development projects and then let the people do the rest on their own. But that didn't happen. Instead, they gave the money to outside wealthy individuals with mega conglomerate corporations and foundations. And then in return, they went into these countries and they extracted their natural resources, which created more poverty and problems instead of solutions. Now we're watching Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa create what's known as the BRICS Bank. It's an alternative and a solution to the Western-dominated global banking system comprised of the Bretton Woods institutions. Of course, we're talking about the World Bank and the IMF, the International Monetary Funds. The new bank will provide a collective foreign exchange reserve backed by gold and a fund for financing development projects in order to address the needs of emerging and poor economies. The 5 BRIC nations will contribute up to $10 billion each year to launch this development bank. The bank will operate on national currencies known as special drawn rights, or the SDR, rather than using a single currency, the US reserve dollar, and will be used in bilateral and multilateral trade deals. So far, those who are holding for us, this is what I want to make a point at. So for those of us who are holding foreign currencies like the Iraqi dinar or the Vietnam dong, I see a lot of people going, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? I can just tell you this, there's no doubt that it's going to happen. It doesn't matter anymore if the IMF or the World Bank revalue the currencies. It's going to reset itself. And why? Because the BRIC members say that the current global balance of power is unworkable. And if they push this bank system, it's going to force other currencies that have been held down to go up. So the institutions such as the World Bank and IMF and the United Nations Security Council are irrelevant in addressing matters concerning global economics. These 5 countries alone make up about 40% of the world's population and account for about, I believe, 25% of the global GDP. So they're in great positions to really make a difference as long as they don't become corrupted. So if you look on YouTube and search for the videos where the Federal Reserve is being questioned during a Senate hearing, they're like in a court session, and they're asking this lady, Inspector General, about $9 trillion missing dollars back in 2012. They're literally asking her, and this is 8 months after it was reported missing, and they still had not even started an investigation. They have no intent on doing it. They know the money was stolen from the American people. As a matter of fact, not only did it not help, but before then we had problems, and that was in 2012. So how about the $12 trillion that are missing in 2009, and the fact that we used $26 trillion to bail out the banks without any authorization from Congress or letting the taxpayers have any say-so to bail out the banks? We were told we're not helping the banks, it's helping the people. No, there's so much more we could have done with the $12 trillion missing dollars and the $26 trillion we used to bail out the banks. There's homeless problems we have. There's plenty of problems. This money could have went to better use. Not to mention the fact that this guy spent $5 billion on the Obamacare website. Now, a lot of you guys out there, you don't have to be IT or techie people to realize that spending $5 billion to create a website is really overspending of taxpayers' dollars. That's just ridiculous, okay? So any logical person would conclude that this is all stolen money from American people, and it's going to affect the economy one way or another, not to mention the loss of confidence that the American dollar will have from foreign investors, okay? So it's crazy to conclude that eventually, or I should say it's not crazy to conclude, that eventually what's going to happen, the US dollar value is going to go down and other foreign currencies will go up. So if the IMF and the World Bank or any other manipulative bank cartels say when this happens, other countries, of course I'm talking about when the value of the dollar goes down, that they know that other countries' currency values will go up because there's less of a demand on the dollar because of its lower value. There will be more demand for the higher value currencies such as the dinar and the dung. Okay, so just hang tight, people. As for the Iraqi or the IQD, the Iraqi dinar, it has been suppressed by war financed by the IMF and the World Bank, just so they can again gain access to the resources each of these countries have. It will not stay like this forever though. The embargo against Iraq was lifted and soon things will change by joining the international market, starting with the sale of bonds as it's predicted to be publicly announced. When they do this, the currency is going to go up. This is going to allow outside investors to come in. Once that happens, the value of the dinar is really going to shoot up. I can't think of anything off the top of my head outside of another war that's going to keep this currency from going up. It's just no reason for that. Okay, so we have seen a lot of articles out there. There's a lot of naysayers. Okay, there's articles out there trying to debunk whether or not the RI or the RV is going to happen. But I see there's two things that you should consider. One is the fact that Iraq's economy would not grow without foreign investors, all right? They need foreign investors to come out. They hold summits every year to entertain people for potential foreign investments, okay? And secondly, if Iraq tries to deny the value of the Iraqi currency held by foreigners, people and their companies will see this as Iraq being dishonest. And I think it would deter any businesses from wanting to go into Iraq to do deals if they don't honor the value change and help the people out, or foreigners who are holding the currency, people like us, okay? So I just don't think Iraq's stupid enough to keep the currency down low for much longer. They want to change. They're really wanting change now, and as we see, protests are breaking out there as well, okay? So as for the Vietnam Dong currency, though, it is predicted to go up in value once the trade deal between China and the U.S. happens. We know this. Right now, they're able to get away with manipulating their currencies, as I said it before, because Trump is using those countries that surround the South China Sea. He's allowing them to manipulate their currencies so it would help hurt China and China's economy. So as long as they're useful to Trump, they're allowed to get away with manipulating their currencies, okay? If you guys remember, Vietnam was actually on a list of countries that Trump had threatened tariffs against if they didn't stop manipulating their currency. So make no doubt about it, one of the pushes and policy changes that Trump is making with the World Trade Organizations is no countries will be allowed to anymore manipulate their currencies. It's just not fair to the rest of the world. Also, there's a little known fact about Vietnam that a lot of people don't know. Vietnam has the second highest level of oil reserves in East Asia. East Asia. About 40% of the Vietnam's output comes from the fields operated by what's known as the Viet-Soviet Petrol. So it's an agreement that the Soviet Union had back in the day with Vietnam. They're out there and they have a joint venture. So Vietnam has a joint venture with Russia, and they are the second largest producer of oil. Many people believe that Dong is a safer investment, by the way, than the Iraqi dinar. And that's because Iraq is dealing with war stuff and where Vietnam doesn't have no war issues they need to deal with. There's no ISIS or anything like that to help keep the which this helps make the dong a safer investment, and that's many people's opinions. Okay, so China has been pushing to bypass the U.S. dollar for a while now, and with the creation of the BRIC banks, this can be achieved within a year if China pulls the trigger. All right, so all they have to do is they want to do it. In case you haven't noticed, they've been storing up, and so has the other BRIC nations have been storing up on a lot of gold. Okay, so if they want to pull the trigger on this, they can make it happen. The precious metal-based assets, so they're securing and backing their currency up with gold and silver, along with the resources each of these companies have, like oil and so forth. So this will dictate the currency's value and make it a much stronger bill than the non-backed fiat currency reserve dollar. Okay, so which brings me to this next part of this little presentation. And I get to ask this question a whole lot. And the question I get asked is, what will you do with your money once the revaluation or the reinstatement takes place, and if you happen to make a lot of money off it? Well, I mean, some of these things are easy. The first thing I'm going to do is pay off all my bills. Pay them all off. One of the greatest feelings to have is just being debt-free, not having to owe money to anybody or anyone or any company. Just pay your bills. That should be the first thing you do, because I hate to put this warning out there again, but I heard a financial advisor speak at a Davos meeting, and what he said still to this day haunts me. And you'll hear me mention this several more times because I want to make this point to you guys. He said after the Kuwait dinar created several millionaires, within 5 months, more than 85% of them were flat broke again. Flat broke. I want you to think about that. We're talking about millionaires. People were turned into millionaires. In less than 5 months, more than 85% of those millionaires were flat broke again. So pay off all your bills just in case, okay? I just want to throw that out there. I made no secret about the portion of where my money is going to go. There's no doubt about it. There's no hesitation. There's no doubt. This is exactly where a minimum of 20% of my money is going to go, is to holding gold and silver. And I'm going to get into this a little bit why. I think anybody that's going to get millions of dollars, if you're blessed enough to get it, you need to buy physical gold and find a safe, hidden place inside your house to hold it. What this does, it preserves your wealth, okay? So let's get into this just a little bit. SD Bullion did a video comparing gold and silver prices going back about 20-25 years. So in 2000, you can buy an ounce of gold, look at this, for $272 approximately. In 2000, all right, we're just now in 2019. So in less than 20 years, gold went from $272 an ounce up to where we are right now, which is approximately $1,500. This past few months, it's been bouncing back and forth between about $1,350 up to about as high as almost $1,600. That's a pretty good jump. That's not too shabby at all. But if you're thinking about when in 2000, if you bought a bunch of ounces of silver at $272 compared to where it is right now, that's a huge increase. You're probably looking at about, I think that's about a 450% increase in just less than 20 years. Okay, so that's not too shabby. All right, let's go to this next one here. So in 1995, silver was bouncing between, you could see here, about $4 to $6. All right, you could see at one time it was about $4.30, maybe a little bit less, jumped up as high as, $6.15 is what you're looking at here. So this was in 1995. Okay. By the end of 1995, you could buy 1 ounce of gold for $5.14. Man, I would love to have that price right now as a person who tries to stack silver. One of the things are, until you reach your goal, you would like for the silver to stay as low as possible until you can achieve your goal. People say, well, what is your goal? If you don't have a lot of money and you really want to try to find a way or a goal for individuals to have and slowly start stacking up, is you want to try to get about 1,000 ounces of silver and a minimum of 20 ounces of gold. Now that's a lot of money, the gold is, so I'd start with the silver, why it's so low. I have reason to believe eventually silver value would pass up gold. eventually, because there's more industrial uses. As a matter of fact, silver is second only to oil in industrial uses. So silver will start to become scarce. Okay, so in 2019, you can see that gold is moving somewhere between about, down here to the low part, about $15 on up as above $18 is what you're looking at right here. So you're looking at since the 1995 to where we are now in 2019, that's about a 260% increase in value. That's not too bad at all. That's a nice little jump. Okay, so many experts expect gold to jump. They believe somewhere around $5,000 an ounce, and silver to be somewhere around here about $120 an ounce by the year 2022. In my opinion, these numbers are drastically low. That's just my opinion. I believe it's at the minimum twice that. Okay, so if you buy now where gold is about $17 an ounce, and you start stacking up, it's going to be a huge jump in the value. That's just my opinion, as well as many other experts out there. Okay, so if you look here in 1996, Warren Buffett's hedge fund group, their Berkshire Hathaway, purchased half. Now this is how you know you got connections. They purchased half, approximately 100 million ounces of silver that were in the COMEX reserve warehouse. So they bought it right here. They just see this drop in how much is being held in our warehouse. They bought half of it. They brought approximately, nobody knows for sure, but it was approximately 100 million ounces. Okay, so let's talk about that for just a minute. So the hedge fund group spent about $500 million for 100 million ounces of gold. Today, that same 100 million ounces is worth approximately $1.8 billion. So in just 23 years, Warren Buffett and his hedge fund made approximately $1.5 billion in profit. It didn't take long for that to happen. So if you think about this, a minimum of 20% of all my money definitely is going to go to holding gold and silver in my house somewhere hidden. That's for sure. The other cash positive investments are things like quadplexes, and apartments. If you want to own a complex with, let's say, 100 units, and you charge about $1,000 a unit, and this is in California. So you're looking at making about $100,000 a month from rent if all your units are occupied and every one of them is paying like they should. So you're looking at $1.2 million a year is what you should get. But keep in mind, you're going to have overhead costs and maintenance fee, taxes, and insurance, of course. That's the kind of stuff you need to think about. Like apartments, you could just buy houses, several of them, outright and just rent them out. But again, you have to worry about the type of tenant you get, whether or not they'll take care of your house or destroy it. So that's not, it's something that's on my mind. I'll probably get a couple of them, but that's not where my mind's at. My mind's here. I think buying storage units is a better move. There's low traffic. People just come here, they rent the space out. There's really low overhead expenses. I mean, you have your insurances and stuff, but the truth of the matter is people just put their items in the units, and the units are locked and they just sit there. Okay, nothing's, you're making money and people's stuff's just sitting there. And so I think it's a much safer bet, in my opinion, owning several storage units. It's a good way to make a steady income with very little overhead. That's just my opinion. Okay, and if you guys feel free to, in the comments, drop your own opinion and let me know what you think about what you would do if once the money thing changes. Okay, so and the thing about storage units that I like, it's going to be like Christmas each time a renter defaults on their payments. I hate to say it that way, but you never know what you're going to find in a unit. Now, as a person who's a coin collector, I'm a numismatic coin collector. If I found this kind of stuff, I would lose my what. I love this kind of stuff. So if somebody's not paying their rent like they're supposed to, by law, you can auction it off, and whatever's in there you own. So, okay, so in closing, I just want to say this. Several currencies have had their value held down for one reason or another. There is no doubt that soon we will see an increase in value of many currencies, including the Iraqi dinar and the Vietnam dong. Knowing this, What you should be doing now, right this moment, is planning ahead of what it is you're going to do after the rates change and you benefit from the profits. You should start doing your research ahead of time and be ahead of the ball game and try to figure out how to not be like any one of those 85% of the people within 5 months who are flat broke, okay? So, thank you for stopping by. Feel free to please hit the like button, subscribe, and share the video. Everybody, have a good evening.